The Cancer new moon is just days away. This presents a unique opportunity to get in touch with our emotions, maybe do some mother wound healing. And we have a unique opportunity with Saturn in retrograde to also bring in the father wound healing. Hi, my name is Tamara Bartmus. I am an astrologer, energy worker, and natural wellness educator. And I'm going to give a quick review of what to expect during this Cancer new moon. Before I go into the details of the Cancer new moon, the exact times, and what you want to pay attention to, I want to remind you that I have a Cancer season workbook. It's called a Zodiac workbook and journal. Now, this is something that you can use every season. There is a new one coming out for Leo season. It should be out here soon. But this is specifically focused for Cancer season so that you can take the energy of the transits and with the comparison of your birth chart to the transits, start learning more nuances about who you are, what needs healing, and what needs addressing. Look for a link for this Zodiac workbook and journal in the description below. The Cancer new moon will be on July 5th at 14 degrees 23 minutes at 4:57 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That's where I live in Utah. So if you live in a different time zone, pay attention to that change. This will happen with the sun and the moon in conjunction, a loose conjunction with Venus, as well as a trine aspect with Saturn in retrograde, just newly retrograde in Pisces, which I've been working on a video that I hope to release soon to help you to understand the significance of Saturn retrograde in Pisces. That Saturn retrograde energy will continue to be around until November. So we have some time to massage out and understand that energy. So I'm not going to dive super deep into it, but it does play a role in this new moon. We also have the new moon creating a square aspect with both the nodes in Aries and Libra. The square of the new moon to the nodes just reminds us that this is a pivotal point of lesson learning in relation to who we see ourselves as individuals and how we show up in relationships as individuals. And that nodal axis continues to teach these lessons of self and individual as we go through it as we move through these nodal lessons for another 10 degrees until they shift into Pisces and Virgo. With the new moon in Cancer, we have an opportunity to begin a new cycle of growth in relation to the Cancer part of our nature. Now, this might look differently for everyone because we don't all have all the planets in Cancer, or it shows up differently in different locations on our birth chart. But wherever it is, this is an insight into what area of your life is beginning a refresh. And with this refresh, as the sun and the moon come together, we create this opportunity of syncing up of our conscious self and our unconscious self, especially regarding our emotions, our subconscious patterns, maybe our relationship with our mother or the mothering energy, or how we express our nurturing energy in our life, especially around the theme of boundaries. This is really important because the sun and the moon create an aspect with Saturn that had just gone retrograde just a couple of days ago. When you look at this chart, we can see that the sun and moon here are conjunct. We have a loose conjunction here with Venus. And if we look at this line, it's creating a trine down here to Saturn retrograde. Saturn does have a patriarchal fatherly energy to it, but it's also this master teacher, this energy that helps remind us of limits and boundaries. And with it going retrograde, creating a trine to this Cancer new moon, it is an invitation to evaluate our emotional boundaries, what that looks like in our life, and maybe where we have overextended ourselves and maybe leaned into codependent relationships or emotions that are really not ours to carry. And we need to see that for what it is, where that's coming from, and maybe expose a little bit more. With the sun and the moon creating this unique aspect, a trine aspect that is a good positive thing. It can create expose for the places in our lives that we might have allowed the limits to exceed what was healthy for us. And we might have to review where we have codependent relationships or patterns or ways of coping with our emotions that are actually hindering our growth more than helping us. This can show up in regards to relationship with your mother or even your father or any kind of authority figure or nurturing figure in your life. It can also show up in how you father or how you mother, whether it's to another person or to even yourself. Of course, with astrology, there's lots of layers to take into consideration. But with this aspect, it is more of an invitation to be aware and bring light to emotional boundaries and emotions that sometimes just don't get addressed. What you choose to become more aware of because of this new moon will be something that helps you finally release and let go and move beyond what might have been patterns for a long time. Cancer is a water sign, so is Pisces. And as water signs, they sort of bookend that water energy. We start with Cancer, then we go to Scorpio, and then we go to Pisces. So we start with this raw emotion that we don't always know how to articulate. We just feel it and we try to protect ourselves from it or with it. And then as we become more aware of it, it moves into a more transformative emotion and helps us do the work of actually transforming and healing the wound of that emotion. That would be that Scorpio energy. As we then are transferred, that energy moves into Pisces, where we actually release and let go and bring in forgiveness and compassion so we can move beyond that and grow as an individual. There is a heavy water influence during this new moon. So if you are a water sign, be gentle with yourself. It could create or present opportunities that need releasing. We need to cry. We need to just let it out. We need to let it go. If you're strong cardinal energy, so that would be like Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries, pay attention because there might be more tension filled or stressful moments that create more anger or intense emotions. And if you're a Virgo or a Taurus, this might be actually a great time to lean into some of your natural tendencies for self-care and finding comfort to help work through those emotions. An essential oil blend that I highly recommend you utilize through this new moon portal, which is about 2 to 3 days before the new moon and then 2 to 3 days after, which is essentially this entire week of July, the first week of July, would be Supermint. It is the oil of perspective, and it includes essential oils like Japanese peppermint, spearmint, and bergamot mint. The mint family alone brings a lot of support to our digestive system as well as our respiratory system. And when it comes to releasing and letting go, there are two parts of that that are really connected to the Cancer energy. When we look at the Cancer sign and the body, we know that it rules different parts of the body. It influences our stomach and our digestion. It influences our breasts and nipples along with the moon. In fact, the moon is a strong ruler. Being the ruler of Cancer is a strong influence on the fluids of our body, including our lymphatic fluid, which is how we release and get rid of toxins and things we no longer need, which very much coincides with this Cancer and Pisces energy showing up during this new moon. It also influences the lower lobes of the lung, the spleen, which is a filtering organ, the lower esophagus, beginning of that digestion place of our body, some parts of our brain, parts of, again, of our lung, our thoracic duct, our rib cage, sternum, pancreas, diaphragm, especially important in releasing and letting go of emotion that sometimes can get tight and tense when we are resistant to release. And so when you use a peppermint essential oil or a blend like Supermint, it is opening up those airways, helping you take those deep breaths and find more clarity because you have physically that oxygen to think a little bit differently and get perspective. And so instead of leaning into the attention or the anger or even into the heightened emotion, maybe of grief or sadness, it helps bring balance and perspective to both of those strong contrary emotions so that we can look at life differently. And with that new perspective, be able to release, let go, and move forward. Some people call Supermint a life coach in a bottle. It can be very soothing. It can be very, very calming to our tissues, to our respiratory system, and it helps us learn to tune into the messages of our body. It can bring comfort and a soothing sense to tension wherever it's held, whether it's in our digestive tract or tension that's held in a joint or in a muscle. It can bring awareness and release just by the application of it. It can also be really wonderful for this hot time of the year. July in the Northern Hemisphere is very hot, one of the hottest seasons of the summer. And by using Supermint, just topically, it will naturally cool you down but it does that as well on an emotional level. So wherever you're at and whatever might be triggering you during this Cancer new moon, it provides the support to help you look at it with rationality, with reason, with greater perspective. And for anyone who's might be feeling especially emotionally weighed down, it can bring a buoyancy and a lightness to lifting you up out of that emotional heaviness. Supermint is a great reminder that as much as there is pain and deep emotion, there can be equal amounts of joy and light and life. Peppermint and its many varieties are incredibly resilient. And as a perennial, it always comes back. It expands and it can grow. It can become a very prolific plant. So utilizing Supermint, putting a drop or two in your palms and cupping your hands together and breathing it in will open up your airways. Putting a little bit on your neck or your temples will help cool you down. Putting a drop or two in or over your stomach or your belly button can help support your digestive processes, help you move through the emotion and the heat and the tension and anything that's necessary for you to begin a new phase of growth with your Cancer nature. As you go through this Cancer new moon portal, pay attention and reflect on your relationship with your mother, with how you show up to nurture yourself, and how you show up to nurture and take care of others. That relationship with your feminine self is part of what is getting reevaluated with the support of Saturn in retrograde in Pisces, and all part of the lesson that you're learning about who you are as an individual and what that means as you show up in relationships to others. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. I have more videos and more to share about astrology, energy work, and wellness. Look for the links for the workbook or the essential oil in the description below, and I hope you have a wonderful Cancer new moon.